So today we're going to do a little tutorial for Valley Yarns pattern 404, the Playing Blocks Baby Blanket, because it's entrelac and Tunisian crochet, which is a little bit different than regular crochet. So to start, you're going to chain 151, and then in the second chain from the hook, so right here, we're going to do a regular single crochet. So into that stitch and single crochet. And this is where it changes a little bit. Normally to proceed you would move into the next chain and single crochet your way across, but we're actually going to create a triangle by working in the sides of the stitches and then into the chain. So for this next step you're going to work under the front loop only, yarn over and bring up a loop, and then you're going to go into the next chain on the hook, yarn over and draw up a loop. So that gives us 3 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through only 2 at a time. So we're going to do that twice. So now you can see there's what appears to be a vertical bar here in the middle of that stitch, and that will increase each time we do this. So again, we're going to work under the front loop only of the single crochet, yarn over and bring up a loop, and then there's that vertical bar. We want to work under that, yarn over and bring up a loop, and then into the next chain, yarn over and bring up a loop. That's 4 loops on the hook. We're going to pull through 2 at a time until we're back to 1 loop on the hook. We're going to proceed in this manner until there are 7 loops on the hook. So here I am ready to finish row 5 of the first triangle. I've got 7 loops on my hook. Again, I'm just going to pull back through 2 at a time until I'm back to just the 1 loop on my hook. Now that is essentially your first triangle finished, but we need to get back down to here to make the next diamond. So we're going to slip stitch our way through here. This is row 6, or binding off. So we're going to go into the next vertical bar and just slip stitch, yarn over and pull through everything on your hook, just like that. And we're going to do that across this triangle. Under each vertical bar we're just going to do a slip stitch. Here's the next vertical bar, across the edge of this triangle. So now we're ready for the first square in that first row, and we're going to do row 1. You're going to draw up a loop in each of the next 6 chains. So it really is just that simple. Into the chain, bring up a loop. We're going to do that a total of 6 times, so we'll have 7 loops on our hook. Now we're going to yarn over and draw through 2 loops at a time until we're back to just the 1 loop. Now row 2, we're going to insert our hook under this first vertical bar, yarn over and draw up a loop, and again the second one, third one, fourth, the last one is here, and then we want to go into the next open chain stitch, yarn over and bring up a loop. So that puts us back to 7 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2 at a time until you're back to 1 loop on your hook. And you're going to repeat that row for 3, 4, and 5. So here we finished through row 5 of the first square, and now we're going to finish this the same way that we finished the last row of the triangle. So under the first bar, yarn over, and it's a slip stitch, so through everything on your hook. Slip stitch under each vertical bar. This is finishing this edge of the square for you. Last vertical bar, and then slip stitch in the last chain stitch that you worked. And that's your first square complete. So you're going to work your way across the squares until you're at the last triangle. So this is a short piece compared to what you'll have for the blanket. So let's work that last triangle now. So this second triangle starts the same way that the squares did. So into the next 6 chains and bring up a loop for each of those chains for a total of 7 loops on your hook. And then finish by coming back through 2 stitches at a time. And then the difference with this triangle as opposed to the squares you've just been working, instead of working your way through the vertical bars and then picking up an additional chain at the end, we're not going to pick up that chain. So each time we go through under the bars, we'll end up with 1 less stitch. See, so that's 6. Pull through 2 at a time. And now we'll go through and pick up 4 for a total of 5 loops. Back through 2 at a time. Again, there's 1, 2, 3 for 4 loops. Back through 2 at a time. See our angle that's forming. 1, 2 for 3 loops. Back through 2 at a time. And then we'll just have the 1 loop here. Then you can cut your yarn and fasten off, and that's the second triangle at the left hand side of the first row. So you should have something that looks similar to this at the end of your very first row, your first strip. Of course it'll be much longer. This is not the width of a baby blanket, but you can see the first triangle, the squares, and the second triangle. So to begin strip 2, you'll use color B, and we're going to pick up stitches in these slip stitches that happened in that last row of the first triangle. You're going to pick up 5 loops. So you want to go through that first slip stitch under both of the strands and grab your second color and bring up a loop in each of the first of those 5 slip stitches. So there's 1. It can be a little tricky if your slip stitches were tight. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1 loop from the corner of this square here. So you've got a total of 7 loops on your hook again. And then we're gonna yarn over and draw through 2 at a time. Then, much like when we constructed these squares, we're going to pick up 1 loop in each of the vertical bars of the row we just worked and 1 stitch of the next square. So let's see that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the next available stitch of that square. That's our 7 loops, and we can finish off coming back through 2 at a time. You'll continue in that manner through 5 rows and finish with row 6 as we did for the other squares. So here you are at the end of your 5th row. We're going to do the 6th row with those slip stitches to finish off. So under the vertical bar, yarn over and slip stitch all the way across. And it's okay to take your slip stitch in 2 steps. If it's easier for you, come back through the vertical bar and then through the loop on your hook. Don't feel like it has to be one smooth and easy transition, as long as you're getting the job done. And that's your first square in the second strip done. So to begin the second square, we're going to work our way down this side and connect to that corner. And bring up 5 loops in these slip stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 in the stitch between for a total of 7 loops on your hook. And then you'll proceed in the same manner you did for that first square, all the way across the row. So again, your piece will be much longer than this, but you should essentially have a row that looks like this when you're done with strip 2. So then for strip 3, you actually begin separate from the piece, but then we'll join as we go. You're going to go into the second chain from the hook and bring up a loop. And then you're also going to go in the first stitch in the side of row 2, that second strip, and draw up a loop, and then pull through only 2 at a time. Then we'll go under that front loop of the first stitch, and then the first vertical bar, and then the next available stitch on that square. And then we'll finish by pulling back through 2 at a time. And again, under the front loop of that first stitch, and then under the next 2 vertical bars, there's one, there's the second one, and then the next available stitch in that square. And then we'll yarn over and pull back through 2 at a time. You can start to see the triangle that's filling in this space. You're going to continue to work through to the 6th row, and then finish off the 6th row the same as with all the other pieces. Under that vertical bar, and slip stitch, next vertical bar, and slip stitch, all the way across, and to the last stitch. And that's the first triangle of strip 3. You'll continue with your squares across in the same manner that you did in row 2.